My name is Ed Nardi, Chair of the Natural Resources Commission, and I'm calling this public meeting to order at 7 p.m. Tonight's NRC meeting will be a hybrid in-person and Zoom meeting. We have a microphone set up on the commission table, and plans will be projected through the TV monitor. If you are presenting via Zoom, please turn on your audio and microphone when it is time for you to speak. Following the presentation by the petitioner and questions from the commission, members of the public will have the opportunity to ask questions and provide public comment. Please identify yourself with name and address for the record. You can also raise your hand from your phone by dialing *9 and use *6 to unmute. All video screens will be turned off with the exception of any commissioners attending virtually and the current petitioner. Once the commission has acted on an application, the petitioner is free to leave the meeting. In the event of any technical difficulties, all matters on the agenda that have not been heard will be automatically continued to the May 22nd meeting. Please note that the meeting is being recorded. At this time, I would ask the commissioners to introduce themselves. Sarah?
Sarah Grimwood.
Bill?
Bill Cremeza.
And Nick.
Nick Pappas.
All right. So moving on to our first item, it's a period of public comment limited to 10 minutes with no more than 2 minutes per speaker. And any public comment is limited to items that are not on the agenda this evening. So, I don't see any public comment live, anything on, okay. So we'll move on to I don't think we have any minutes to approve either,
You don't.
right? That's a, we'll strike that, all right. And next up is commissioner comments. Any,
No, nothing.
whose comments? All right. Dealer, you're up.
Okay, so just wanted to let people know that the drafted environmental impact report for the proposed expansion of hangars at Hanscom. There's a filing with MIPA, and that the comment period was supposed to end on May 10th, and they have extended that comment period until June 14th, and they anticipate issuing the certificate on June 21st. I should point out that we made it through town meeting last week, and there were a lot of good articles that were passed, including 3 for NRC. So the one for the Haywood Meadow wall restoration by the Millbrook, the APOD program at White Pond, and the steps at Kennedy's Pond at the Hillcrest Conservation Land. There's an amendment that Representative Cataldo has included in the state budget. It's $250,000 to be included in the reuse planning. And so if that is approved in the August budget, then that money can be used towards that purpose. It would be available in November and would need to be spent by July. And the other thing that I just wanted to mention is that Concord is now officially at 12.8% of its subsidized housing inventory. This is with the Novo project that was recently approved by ZBA, and which is on tonight's agenda for the NRC. So that means, above 10% that Concord is
Yeah.
not subject to
Hostile.
Bulletproof for the
hostile
moment.
fees.
Yeah,
Right.
that's great.
Right.
That's a strong percentage.
Yeah.
General.
Yeah.
For this neck of the woods.
And the other one that is, in the works, it was filed before Concord achieved that 12.8% is the one at Forest Ridge, which, I think, the town feels, the select board had sent a letter to the state saying it's not a suitable site. It's at the Thoreau Club. It's at the edge of town. It's not near any town resources. The state disagreed. And so that project is likely to proceed because it was filed prior to the town being above the 10%.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's housing, right? And that's.
Right,
that's
right,
a state
which is
issue too,
important.
right? So
For sure.
it's a tough balance.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. All right, I think we have two continuances this evening to different dates. Anybody want to take that?
Sure. So I move that we continue until June 12th without discussion, 166 Commonwealth Avenue, DP file 137 1643. Should we take a vote on that? Shall I do the other one as well?
You can do the other
Yeah.
one. Then we can do both.
And I move that we continue to August 14th without discussion. 154 Southfield Road, DEP file 1371641.
Got a second?
Second.
Thank you, Bill. And the vote. Sarah,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Nick,
Aye.
and I am an I as well. All right, that'll bring us to our first continuance this evening, which is a notice of intent, 287 Lindsay Pond Road, DEP file 137-1667. Good evening, Bruce. Do you want to come up here and talk to
Sure.
us, or?
Sorry, we lost the chairs.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Bring it with you.
Come up and sit on the floor.
So I think, Bruce, last time we left you, the commission was looking for what efforts have been taken to make efforts to get out of the 50 with the architectural plans.
Correct.
So,
And also here with me this evening, on the Zoom is, Shannon Georgia, the architect, and, Jonathan Silverstein from, their office, as legal counsel as well. I'm not sure if either of the clients are on. I know that they had some conflicts this evening. Matthew Burr might be here also, but I'm not positive of that. We had submitted 15 of PDFs.
Yeah.
For the board to review. They range in locations, and as I stated in the revised narrative, these are projects or progress drawings that the architect and the property owners were working through together to make sure that their program worked within the spaces that were available, that being the buffer zones, the septic systems, trying to have enough space to put drainage and meet offsets to all of the required issues. So, there's 15 of them there. If you want to bring them up, we can walk through
yeah,
them.
I,
Or if you went through them, I can
Well,
answer any questions.
I only can speak for myself. I did look at them briefly. But one of the caveats was that many of the plans, while they're schematic in nature, conceptual in nature,
Mhm.
not all of them met. I think the comment was not necessarily all of them met all the requirements you would have to meet, setbacks from septic, foundations, and so on and so on. So I don't think that, these are my positions, I don't think the commission wants to look at a lot of plans that don't meet the requirements that you'd have to, that would be functional to get a permit on.
One of the things though, I will say, if I remember correctly, at least the first three that I had seen are all outside of the 50-foot no build zone.
Yeah, I mean,
And that was surprising, given that, how the other plans had developed. Do any of those meet any of the, all the other setback requirements?
yeah,
It's hard to say, again, because they were early on, they initially were looking at, they had a bigger structure, they've pared the size of the structure down, they tried to maintain a single story. They looked at 2-story structures. There was a whole lot of, working back and forth. One of the tenants of this building, the property owner is going to be the mother-in-law or the mother.
Yeah.
And, so they're trying to keep it on a single level type
Sure.
sense.
situation from that standpoint. Again, the septic systems were not totally redefined, as you see on the plan that's on the screen. They're in kind of a trapezoidal configuration. That was a system that was laid out by the previous engineer. We squared them up more so that they weren't taking up such a big footprint. In a trapezoidal, that when you put the areas around them, they have to stay away from basement or whatnot. That area gets bigger in a trapezoid, so we, made them rectangular, condensed them, so that they weren't as far reaching. And I told them when they were doing these that, I was going to kind of condense them a little bit, so to give them some more space. But it was, hard to make everything match. And, again, when we worked through everything, we got to where we are now, which is the last couple of these that were in there that are down in the 50-foot within the existing setback, not closer, a 24-foot reduction within the 50-foot setback. And as we've proposed to increase that 25-foot setback with both plantings and replanting the meadow grass adjacent to the wetlands in the meadow area. So
Bill, did you want to look at those first two or three plans?
Yeah, I would. Is this
Okay.
the first one?
Yeah.
So in those lines, I don't have, are those grayish dotted lines, are they, that's not the fifth? Yes, that's the first one's a 50th,
first
right?
one's the 50, second one's 75, third one's 100.
And what we're not seeing, of course, is where the house was originally, which was barely in the
You-
50, is
You
it?
do, you see it in
Underneath.
the gray with the hatched lines on it right there.
That was the original.
That's the original, that
Oh,
is
okay.
the house that is there.
There now,
today.
okay. All right. And then maybe the next one then for a second?
Another iteration.
Yeah, I see.
And you can see this one's entirely over the current primary septic system and where the proposed septic system is to go. Enlarging it to a 6-bedroom system, so it meets the full room count.
Okay.
Not that we have 6 bedrooms, but the count of rooms, and when you
And-
have an ADU, you now have another dining room, another living room, another
Yeah.
kitchen, so
Yeah.
you have to have more bedroom count to make up for the additional room count.
Well, just for the purpose of looking, how about one more, just the third one, is this the third one?
Yeah. No, that's the second one.
Second, one. Here's the third.
That one.
Here's the
Yeah.
third one. This one was one that, you know, again, right into the septic area, and you notice the garage is all the way down the back, so it's gonna mean a driveway all the way down in. Closer to the area and had a bigger impact on the yard. The other problems that we didn't like with a bunch of these is that. You see how the house is rotating more clockwise from its current position. It was moving the house closer to that portion of the wetlands and more. In the buffer zone from that standpoint.
Mhm.
So when you put your pavement in and you put that in, you're really picking up a more impervious area into the buffer zone.
Okay,
So if we were to go to the plan that's in front of us today,
yeah, I'd like to see.
Yeah. that's
the
right.
plan, if
Yep.
you
Yeah.
will. One of the discussions we had last time was, and I think you noted that there was. We had suggested, why not just move the house back? Right, and then I think the thought was that there was a tree that was,
Well, there's a
Of
couple
concern.
things. There's a tree, there's a concern, obviously the tree could go.
Yeah.
It's a fairly mature tree, but, it could go. You can just see the gray outline of the 25-foot offset from the reserve septic system in the top center of the view there. And that is, it has a little bit of play against that. Again, if we slide this building north by itself, plan north by itself, it pinches off between the two buildings and it takes away from the design intent and character that went into this whole thing of relating the architecture of the buildings. And prior to the last meeting I gave you, we submitted to you folks architectural renderings that showed the gable ends aligning, the archway of the portico aligning so that there's a view from the cottage house to the pond and the wetland area and the buffer zone, the meadow on the site. Again, trying to relate to all these things. And I think one of the key things that we keep on missing out on here, and Bert, if I could get you to go to raise that up to the lower portion of the other way. Down below this, there's a plot plan, I believe, yeah, right there, there you go. So 287 is this whole parcel that's outlined in the dark black line. The existing pond you see down there, the wetland line around it, which is in the meadow, and then the buffer zones, and obviously towards Lindsay Pond Road, it's taken up. This is a 2.6 acre lot, 2.64, and the existing building is kind of stuffed in that northwest corner, and that's the corner we're trying to work with. The other thing here is where it says NF Burr, to the east of that, or to the right as we're looking at the plan, is the last buildable lot in Lindsay Pond development that the Burrs purchased to maintain as open space, and they mow it as a meadow, you know, once, twice a year as they do the rest of that, to maintain the views to the Stanford conservation land that's just south of that, the restricted land, that's those big meadows. It's not restricted? Oh, okay. It's a beautiful piece of land.
Yep.
And then maintain the views to that piece and allow for the folks in the neighborhood to use trails. So they've done a lot towards preservation here, and we have a little tiny piece to work in, and we're doing our best to follow your bylaw, follow your policy, not go closer, reduce our footprint in that 50-foot zone. And even though we've reduced it, we've now done tenfold on restoration within the buffer zone towards the amount of impervious that we're creating. So I think that the applicant and their team have gone a long ways to do what your bylaw is looking for. And we're really enhancing the buffer, which is currently lawn, right up to about 16 feet away from the edge of the wetland, and we're proposing to eliminate that and put that back in as vegetative.
Yeah.
So which one are you proposing now?
This plan,
This
if
this one.
if you go back up to the
The
top. I'm sorry.
original? I'm sorry.
I think it is the original.
It's the original that's been tweaked a little bit. We reduced impervious area, we reduced the courtyard parking area to bare minimum to get in and out of the garage and the carport. We reduced the patio areas,
Yeah.
and then we added in all the planting.
But that's all here now in this.
That's
plan.
all in that plan, that's
Okay.
correct.
But it is fair to say, isn't it, that that lot that the owners have preserved in a natural state, but that's not protected in any way.
No.
It could be developed in the future.
It could be.
Okay.
They have not put a conservation restriction
Okay,
on,
I'm just,
as of yet.
just curious. Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. How does the commission feel about the plan and effort to date to try to get out of the 50?
Is there any quantification of how much better this is than the original?
Yes,
One says 12 feet and one says 24 feet out of the 50. Anyway.
yeah, this is.
The waiver says, I think the waiver says 12 feet,
So-
and maybe the write-up says 24 feet.
So I guess the two parts of my
Yeah,
question.
it's actually 24 feet. I copied over the old one when we
Okay.
did that.
How much was the closest distance reduced?
So
and how much was
that's
the area
24
reduced?
square feet, just to be clear. It's not
20.
distant, it's not linear distance away.
Yeah, I think the linear distance is the same.
The linear distance remains the same in the 0 to 50 foot or 25 to 50 foot. We've reduced the impervious surface by 24 square feet. In the whole area, we've reduced it from 788 to 384, so
In
400 square
100
feet
foot?
in the 100 foot.
So that's significant.
Yeah. And they have been mowing, because they didn't know where the wetland line was and everything, but they have been mowing where that dark line is, the second one to the right. They have been mowing right up to that area. On a regular, like as lawn, and, you know, they've agreed to set bounds and preserve that 25 foot. They've agreed, to your proposal to remove the turf and put in, the, wetland species, not wetland species, the, conservation meadow mix, species, wildflower species seeding in that area that's stippled. And then plantings that occur, and that's on the planting plan from Elizabeth Morris, which is also part of the package.
And I just had one other question, from the technical aspect of things. Septic systems and of course subsurface drainage. I think you said there, or in the write-up, I think it was the setback was either 20 or 25 feet from some of these things. But I thought in certain cases, it wasn't as much depending on the type of system it is.
So whenever you have a septic system in a basement or any habitable space that is even a garage that is below the level of the leaching facility, you have to be 20 feet away. And if it is above that, as in a garage slab or a slab on grade, then you can go 10 feet away. So regardless of the type of system, those are the offsets. With remedial upgrades, there is the possibility of having the system closer if that's the only possible
I see.
choice that you have. So that's
Can I just ask, is this a slab or is this a? full
these have,
basement?
they have basement spaces.
Okay, so then
for
that would
storage.
be 10 feet to the tank and 20.
To the leaching
To
field.
the leaching
Right.
field, that is correct.
Okay. Okay. Um. Nick, Bill, any other comments from your end?
No, I mean, I can, this was the extension into the 50-foot was already there with the previous, with the present home. So we're kind of caught, I would have liked to have seen it pushed back, but obviously that's just, I don't see it, I don't see we can. Is that right?
Well, my guess is they could if they really wanted to.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, I'm just speaking for myself. I'm not sure about the architectural theory of a view out the door of the cottage going through that. I just don't see that as a view corridor from the house, but that's just me. I would think the views are out the living room areas and stuff like that, but it is a design thesis, so. It just seems like it's hanging on a thread there myself in regard to that issue, but that's not neither here nor there for us, to a degree. Although it's driving you staying in the 50
Right,
in terms of the house placement.
correct.
It is.
And it's a policy, but the 50-foot no build policy asks that there's an alternatives analysis that is provided that demonstrates, alternatives that can relocate, so the structure's considered a grandfathered structure. But it asks that, you look at ways that you can relocate that structure outside the 50.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that we've seen enough demonstration of, we got the narrative, so we see that from the, the written description, but, from, feasible alternatives where, it meets, zoning setbacks and septic and, feasible alternatives that may not be the same architectural, considerations, but what would accomplish moving that structure outside of the 50. And I'm not sure that we have been presented with enough of that information.
Well, yeah. Whereas you can see, we're pinned right up against the setback line to Lindsay Pond Road, with the cottage unit. We have,
So
Yeah.
I'm just gonna suggest that.
Hmm.
And it's very difficult to make plan revisions in a meeting.
I
And-
agree.
Just to say that, I think there, I think
It-
Ed has suggested, and others on the commission have suggested that there may be other alternatives that could be considered, and so perhaps that's something that, the commission might want to be seeing before, it's hard to design in a meeting. We're not,
100%.
right, okay.
I mean,
Totally agree. I'm just,
it may be helpful to take your plan that you have in front of us today. And if you were to try to move back, let's say the house, and that creates issues, then you could bring that to the next meeting and say, as we tried to push that back, these are the things that it
Yeah.
tripped.
That would help me.
And then I think we'd have a better understanding about the complexity, right?
Yeah.
Looking at a plan's kind of easy and saying, move a house back, but we
Right.
understand that there's septic, subsurface drainage catchment, drainage out to the wetlands and things of that nature, but it might be helpful to say, here's what happens if we do this.
and we had that conversation, I think, in the very first meeting, that if we tried to move the house up, we now pinch ourselves against the 25-foot setback that is required for the setback from, leaching discharges, leaching areas of, stormwater leaching areas. And we have those just outside of that area. We have a couple feet to play with there, but just a couple feet. But I also have to get piping through and have these structures available in space for them and not put them down into closer to the wetlands. So there's really no space to move that building plan north or north as is shown on the plan there. It also pinches off the ability for access in between the two structures, which is pretty minimal right now. It's like 12, 15 feet between the 2 points. So, and we went through that, so I mean, I can move it north and show that on a piece of paper, but it's.
To me, that would be helpful,
Mr.
but it's up to the, you know, what the other commissioners feel as well.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
would it be okay if I said a few things? This is Jonathan Silverstein, the applicant's
Sure.
attorney.
yeah, name and address for the record, Jonathan.
Of course, Jonathan Silverstein, Blattman, Bobrowski, Haverty, and Silverstein, 9 Damon Mill Square in Concord. So I guess just a few points I want to make, and I'm new to the party, so you know, I don't want to presume to know everything that's happened previously, but I guess a few observations. One is you have a registered professional engineer before you telling you he has looked hard at the possibility of moving the structure back to get it out of the setback or further less into the setback. And he's telling you it's simply not possible without violating other setback requirements. And I respectfully would hope that you would take that at face value and not need him to show it on a piece of paper, particularly given the number of meetings that have already taken place on this. And I guess just in terms of the requirements of the bylaw, section 7.4 E2 requires that there be no expansion of the structure. We're reducing the amount of structure in the setback. You know, I think you've seen a lot of alternatives that were considered and looked at, and I think you can see the constraints on the site. And I know just from the standpoint of the time and expense to my client, it may not seem like a big issue for the commission to say, well, just come back and show us what you're telling us as a professional engineer on a piece of paper. But of course, that's more time and money for my clients who are already into this a lot. And I know that's not your primary consideration. I certainly appreciate this. But where the ultimate question for the board is whether or not there's going to be an increased significant impact to the resource area. And we're seeing that there's going to be a net decrease in the impact to the resource area. I would hope that the commission would see itself clear to vote to approve the order tonight.
Thank you, Jonathan. I don't think we have
Thank
an
you, sir.
order prepared, so I don't think anything will be approved, if you will.
Oh, fair enough,
Okay,
but I guess not make us come back with more plans and more alternatives next time.
okay, thank you. Any discussion around that?
Well, there's
Go ahead, Nick.
questions about. It feels, first off, I don't understand what the current architectural design is compared to the existing architectural design. But I don't understand if we're suggesting that they push it to some totally third type of architectural design.
No.
Add floors or something like that.
No,
So I'm not clear exactly how far we are able to or should be pushing that question of design. Right? That's nothing to do with our, because that's what we're asking them to do.
no, I think the question of the design is that their design today is, you know, in the 50, although reducing it by 24 square
No,
feet.
but you can reduce the floor area by adding floors, for instance. I
Correct.
have no idea what this is, right? So is that what we're asking them to do?
No, I don't believe so. I think the request was saying, take this plan as a counterpoint to Jonathan's request.
And the reason I'm pushing this is I'm not clear what we're asking them in terms of what exactly they might do.
I think this was broached at the first meeting, not the second meeting, was, is it possible to take your design as it sits today
As it sits today, okay.
and see if you can slide the main building up, plan north, if you will, and see if you can limit your incursion into the 50 more so. That's all. And then I understand Jonathan's request saying,
And then.
you know,
maybe-
the engineers said that creates some issues, so let's just take it at face value. I think sometimes it's easier to look at a plan and understand the complications that may create or not create.
Mhm.
That's all. That's not asking to redesign the house in any
Okay.
significant way, et cetera.
So we just suspect that there's some other way they can jiggle it on the property and make it better.
My guess of it is you probably could. But again, I'm guessing a little
What's
bit.
the limit to asking them to go out and I want to make sure this doesn't.
My,
go on
my
forever.
understanding, Nick, from the first meeting, not the last meeting, but maybe it was spoken about last meeting, was one of the reasons that was limiting it going plan north was a tree. That was a larger tree,
Right, I remember. that.
plan north,
Yeah.
right? So that's, well, that issue can become you can overcome that issue, right? That happens with a lot of projects, right? Especially outside the 50, people are moving trees and putting in houses and
In
systems
fact,
and
most
additions.
proposals we see ask to remove a lot of trees.
Yeah.
This one does.
Well, so that's the first question. And then the second question would be, if you did slide it plan north, how does that upset the design and what complications does it bring? And if, again, if they so choose, they may just simply show us, if you push that plan north
Mhm.
5 feet or 10 feet, these are the things that it upsets, and we think that's beyond the bounds of reasonableness. And we think that we should rest where we were originally, something to that effect. Anyway, that's the question on the table, at least from my point of view. The commission might feel totally differently.
I think that makes sense, and I think that's the least, that's the least difficult, because the other possibility was to look at those first 2 or 3 plans and to explore those more.
And those are
deeply.
all different.
I
and
know, they're very
different
different.
designs where I'm sure
Exactly,
the
very
ownership
different
doesn't
designs, right,
like,
no.
you know, or prefers this plan, put it that way. I'm sure they like all the plans, but
No, I don't think they like all the.
This is their
They went
preference.
through a lot of
I
iterations
bet
to
they
get to
did,
where they
yeah.
are.
so anyway, that's just simple thought, Nick, that's all. Okay, well, before we go further, let's take it out to any public comment. See if there's any there. I don't see any in the room, feel any on,
Not seeing any answer.
okay,
I wasn't sure if Sarah, did you? have-
oh, please, sir,
I don't think I have anything to add.
okay. So from a commission point of view, is there a general thought that one last effort to see if we can, if the owner and consultant are willing to give it a look, but specifically to this
I would-
plan and what the
I would
problems
like to see
are?
that because I think as a commission, we're always challenged on, well, this has been done before, this hasn't been done before. So we're always trying to be consistent. And I just want to be very clear that we can, as with other people coming forward, we ask them to push back, that we can clearly defend, assuming we make the decision to allow you go forward this. I would just feel much more comfortable if it was clearly down on a plan and could be found and explained to other people why we allowed this one.
Okay. I feel that I've failed and that I haven't been able to properly explain to you the issues that
Right.
we run into when we've tried it in the office and
Right.
combined with the design team. The only way that we see that there's a way to make this work would be to modify our relief request with the zoning board of appeals to push the building that's up against the setback
Mhm.
into the setback to Lindsay Pond Road,
Show me on the plan.
Yeah,
what-
it does.
When you say
Right.
setback,
Talking
I'm
about
not,
that corner there.
right in that,
So you
right
can't,
there, exactly
so
right
this
there.
setback is how far from?
That's 40-foot setback.
Well, does that,
Okay.
where does that cross the 50-foot lot, that building? It doesn't.
It doesn't,
It's
no.
the other 2
no, but
buildings.
it's the,
But
they
moved-
want
I
to go
can
lining
move
up because of the
the
views.
unison at that point. So if I do that, I could get somewhere between 5 and 7 feet. And I'd have to modify, put a couple more bends in the lines of the drainage. I'm not quite sure how, but I can play with that. If I,
And you can't.
Well, if you
you
slid
can't-
that back, it would still be a straight shot across, so.
excuse me?
Yeah.
I would
Hey,
take
yeah.
everything
So-
simultaneously, yeah.
So I think if it's, if the commission's generally in agreement, I think Bruce, I think we'd ask you if you could, even if it's just overlaying what you have
Yeah.
here and see what the complications are. We don't, to Jonathan's point, we're not trying to spend your client's money. We're not trying to exercise them. We're trying to follow through on a policy, as you know.
Mhm.
And looking at the various iterations of 15 different iterations, but none of them really
It's
pin down all the issues, and it's
exactly.
kind of respectfully a waste of time on both groups, right? Because it's not what your clients want either. So I think if we focus on the plan that is in front of us, that you'd like to see happen,
Mhm.
let's see if you can take a look specifically to this plan and see what it may or may not do. That's all.
And what I'm asking right now is if I am able to shift this, the main building, between 5 and 7 feet further away. By making this adjustment to the zoning board of appeals, assuming that they would grant that, is that something that we can work with?
Great. I think we gotta look at it.
Yeah.
To your suggestion, again, saying 5 to 7 feet sounds like a really. That's a real positive, but I think we just gotta see it on a plan, because then we're just kind of, nah, I think so, type of thing.
Right.
So I think that, but I think if you can send those plans, we can look at them, we can understand the issues, you could just bullet point the issues that
Mhm.
come from it,
That
so
would be
it's not
helpful.
a lot of labor in terms of, we don't need a letter with a lot of text, if you will, and kind of preface, you can get right to the matter at hand, so good for us to give it short shrift in terms of understanding the
Yeah,
issues that
Because
come
you
of
could
it.
mark on the plan, you can put, I don't know, point A, this corner, these are the challenges with why we can't go that way. Point B on the right, these are the challenges why we can't go it that way. I think it would just help to document the things that you've told us.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce.
Right?
All right. Good to continue to the 22nd and see what we can do. Might be a little challenging though.
This Friday.
Because it's 2
Friday
weeks.
noon.
As I know,
So materials in by Friday noon.
this,
this
Because it's
Friday.
2 weeks instead of 3 weeks.
uh-huh. So I need it by this Friday,
Yes.
that's in
Mhm.
2 days from now?
Yes, we had to adjust our meeting last week because of.
Oh, that's
special
right, we
meeting.
shifted.
Yeah,
Special town
yeah.
meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
sure, we'll make it happen. We'll
Okay.
figure it out.
There we
Okay,
go.
Good man.
All right. Thank you, Bruce. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Have a good
Thank
evening.
you.
Good night, thank you.
Thank you. All right. So our next, let's see, let me just flip over, make sure I'm staying in order here. All right, our next is a notice of intent, Novo Riverside Commons, 292, 294 Baker Avenue, DEP file 137-1660. Good evening. Could I get your name and address for the record, please?
Sure.
Or names?
Yes. Dan Feeney, I'm a professional engineer at Bales and Thomas, which is located at 144 Turnpike Road in Southborough, Massachusetts. Brian.
Oh, Brian Butler, Oxbow Associates, from Acton, Massachusetts.
Evening. All right. So. Are we good with, do we just want to talk just briefly about the order of conditions? And just talk a little bit about some of the notations on that, just to review, make sure we're all in agreement on that.
Yeah, we had.
And then we
some
can talk about
dialogue with Lily after your.
a couple other matters as
appearance on
well.
it, and,
Yeah.
I think we're, nothing, yeah, we've reviewed it all. Twice.
My understanding, Kevin, you reviewed the order as well?
Yeah.
Okay,
Iteration of it, and I think everything's good to go unless you. Yeah, you had a couple of the last iteration changes dealing with.
Right, so I sent the draft order of conditions to Kevin and his team this morning.
Yeah.
After we
Good.
talked about it last night. And they had some mostly minor conditions or minor revisions. You know, we always have that standard condition about having mitigation occur within the first growing season after issuance of the order, and they asked that it be after the issuance of a building permit. Do you have a sense?
That makes
when-
sense.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it does
just
make sense.
because
All
it's
these make
deferred.
sense.
Yeah,
Then we're gonna start going the restoration and,
Sure,
yeah.
sure.
Do you have a sense of when you're gonna be requesting a building permit?
Ever since, window and.
Yeah, you know, a lot of it is up to the developer in terms of financing and. things
Right,
like
right,
that.
right. I
So
understand that. I'm just
Yeah.
wondering if you have any concept of time.
I
frame.
would think it would probably, at the soonest be, towards the end of this year. Because, you know, the architect has to take the plans from a relatively low level of design. all the
Yeah,
way
yeah.
through.
Yeah, their box is
Full
on a plan right now.
design.
Yeah, 6 months then,
Yeah,
yeah.
so I
Yeah.
think that would be the soonest.
Yep.
Could be a little bit longer than that even.
Okay. And then the rest were really just sort of editorial. Thank you for correcting our
Typos and,
typos. But we have the standard condition about Title V applying. And they requested that that condition be removed because this will be on municipal sewer. So no issue with that.
makes sense.
Yeah. So I don't think there are any,
I think we're,
yeah, I think we're good.
and other than the helical, I think we're good to go, right?
Right,
Which is
and we did
confirmed.
include a condition that said either concrete or helical and, you know.
You'll look at the plans then and
Yes.
Yeah. makes sense. Okay, any other thing from the proponent?
We don't have anything else.
This, I think we're
Okay,
pretty comfortable.
let me just go out to public comment to see if, commission, any,
Nope, no, fine.
excuse me.
Oh, good.
All right, any public comment in regards to a pending order of conditions?
Nope.
Seeing none? All right,
Okay, I move that we close the hearing and issue an order of conditions for forgive me. 292 and 294 Baker Avenue, which is DP file 1371659, with findings A, B, and C, standard conditions 1 through 20, and special conditions 21 through 68.
I second that.
thank you, Bill, and we'll take the vote. Sarah?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
And I am an aye as well.
Great.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Good luck with the project.
It's been a long, not as long as it could have been, so we appreciate all your
Well,
help with even pre-filing
you're just starting, right? So, there you go.
important milestones. I think I'm here actually.
You're welcome. Okay. All right, so now we'll start with the new applications this evening. The first one up is a notice of intent, 216 Southfield Road. NOI DEP file number 137-1669.
And I believe the Amex are on, and for the record, Brian Butler, Oxbow Associates,
you.
but I think that's Amy and Brian up there and very small. They are the owners, recent owners. I think they purchased the property around September of 2023 and reside there. And the project is improvements to a patio and soap pools,
Yeah.
kind of compact pools. And I can explain briefly if they.
Yeah, sure. Why don't we just put up the plan and walk through? I think it's pretty straightforward, but
Yeah.
Yeah,
it'd
it's
be
very
nice just to
straightforward.
have a quick,
And it was a kind of we went through many iterations of this plan because we have floodplain, riverfront, BBW, and the floodplain in particular was, it's a long sweeping lawn down, like many are, down to the river. Very pleasing aesthetic there, but the floodplain comes up as you see, the blue line that's almost midway through the final site plan. Our initial iterations intruded into the floodplain, which would have been made for abrupt walls or in compensation in inconvenient places. And so the Amex self-constrained really to pull this back and reconfigure and did a lot of architectural iterations and came up with this plan, which stays completely out of the BLSF, the floodplain, stays out of the buffer zone and is marginally or, a third into the outer riverfront area, so all of it's beyond 100 feet. In that case, it does qualify for the exemptions that were cited in the narrative here. There are twofold, one with regard to fencing in riverfront area as an exempt activity, provided it meets certain standards, and the other is for pools, patios, bulkheads, and a few other conversion of lawn to several items. And in that regard, it's really an exempt activity, but we had, the history on this was a notice of intent was filed for this, I think in 2013 or 14. File number 1244 for a reconstruction of the house. The initial house was demolished. This house was built. It had a stormwater infiltration system, built both along the sidelines. It show, I think, on the existing plan. Not particularly consequential here. Some of it is under the existing stone patio there. The stone patio will remain, although there'll be some work done on it. We calculated that 1,022 square feet in the narrative here and on the form. It encompasses all the work. I guess we didn't count the fence because of the brevity of the footprint, but all the patio as well as the two proposed soak pools. So it will maintain the infiltration galleys. If there is any reason to disturb one of them underneath, which we don't anticipate, but when we get there, we may find we would just replace it in kind, slightly reconfigured. It's all gravelly soils out there. The testing data for those sizing of those infiltration galleys was in the prior notice of intent. There's a geotech page submitted with that. So we're not worried, and they're somewhat discretionary, I guess, anyway, but I guess it was probably good sense, so rather than have gullies of water running down the sides of the lawn, they recharged it, which is preferable on the fronts. So the project is technically exempt. We was talking with the AMIX and so well, we could file an RDA, but if anything goes wrong, it's gonna be about 7 or 8 weeks to file a new notice, and then, you know, there goes the summer. And similarly, I almost was, but I felt a little bit foolish, gonna submit an RDA concomitant with this, and then, you know, take your pick. So I figured that seemed a little wise guy or something, I'm not sure. So it is categorically exempt, but and we did have a little inconsistency, the patio, the as-built plan submitted for the 1244 filing wasn't 100% consistent, so we figured, well, we'll bring all this to the forefront. The existing patio, the new patio improvements in the fence, and the commission will at least have some authority for not oversight, but verification that it's built per the plans. And that's why we filed the notice of the filing fee is somewhat academic, so that's where we are with you today. We're actually requesting to approve this under an order of conditions that verifies that we are in fact exempt from the performance standards. And I'd ask Amy and Brian if, now I can really barely see you. Do you have any comments, thoughts, addenda to what I've just brought forth?
Nope, you covered it all. Thank you.
Thank
Brian.
you.
Yeah. I think you covered it all as well.
See.
Yeah, very thorough.
Yeah, I told them, given the nature of this, it wasn't probably worth having to attend in person, but there wasn't gonna be a lot of arm wrestling.
I don't think so.
No, thank you, Bert, for reviewing it as well. Insight.
Nick, Bill, Sarah, any comments?
No, nothing. Seems
No.
fine.
Seems straight away. Okay, any public comment regarding this proposal? Okay, seeing none, I do believe we have an order of conditions.
Yes, I move that we close the hearing and issue an order of conditions for 216 Southfield Road. DEP file number 1371669 with finding A, standard conditions 1 through 20 and special conditions 21 through 52.
Second.
Thank you, Sarah. The vote, Sarah?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you very much.
Good luck with the
Thank you.
project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Take
Have a good
care.
night.
So the order condition, Brian and Amy will be sent certified mail to your mailing address, your physical address. Be on the lookout for a green card. And that'll be reported at the registry by your conveyancer or something. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
You too.
Bye.
All right, next up, notice of intent, 67 Elsinore Street, DEP file 137-1670. Good evening.
Good evening.
Hey, Mark. How are you?
Paul Kirch is on Zoom, who's going to present.
All right.
as well
Hi,
as
Paul.
Mike.
Hey, how you doing? I hope you can hear me.
Yeah, if name and affiliation address for the record.
Yep, my name's Paul Kirchner from Stamsky McNary, 1000 Main Street, Acton, Massachusetts. We are the engineers and surveyors for this project. Obviously, as you know, Mark White is with you in the room, as is, I believe, Mike Paratori from the applicant AWMW LLC. So I don't know the best way to do this. I can just talk or share my screen, or
You want to share your
the-
screen if you
the
want?
plan
That probably makes sense.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, I think I gotta be given permission.
Should be all set.
Yep. Okay, I have the permitting plan up on my screen now. So 67 Elsinore Street contains an existing single-family dwelling. It is in the northeast corner of the lot. I am trying to circle it with my cursor right now. There is bank associated with an intermittent stream located at the rear of the property that projects 100-foot buffer zone onto the property. The proposed project at this site is for the raising of the existing house and construction of a new dwelling. The entirety of that proposed house is outside of the 100-foot buffer zone of the back of that stream. The work proposed within the buffer zone is landscaping associated with the construction of the house, the removal of one 20-inch deciduous tree, which I'm trying to identify with my cursor right here, and the installation of sprinkler heads between the 50-foot no-build zone and 100-foot buffer zone. These are what these triangle shapes are representing here, the sprinkler heads. We are proposing the planting of one native tree to mitigate for the removal of that 20-inch deciduous tree. Additionally, we are proposing pheno markers along the 25-foot no disturb zone, and all proposed work is outside of the 25-foot no disturb. So in terms of the proposed alteration within the buffer zone, it is fairly minimal removal of that tree, installation of an irrigation system outside of the 50, planting of a new tree, and installation of those pheno markers. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Mark, do you want to just name and address for the record if you want to add anything?
233 Independence Road. Had nothing to add unless there's questions.
Okay.
Although I do, no, I have nothing to add.
Now you've got us wondering.
Well, I'll
He's
tell you,
catching on.
I'll tell you what I was thinking, but I don't want to be presumptuous, so.
You're
But I
probably
will-
thinking
I-
what we're thinking.
Yeah.
Go ahead, you're probably thinking
Go
what we're
ahead.
thinking. Go ahead.
No, I was saying that all I was thinking is that if we were prepared or fortunate enough to have an order of conditions issued tonight, I was wondering if I could read those special conditions prior to the.
So we
We
don't
don't.
have an order
Okay,
prepared
so
for
there's
this.
my question.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I have just a couple small questions.
Yeah.
One question is, the trees that you're planting in the back,
Mhm.
are they all native?
Yeah.
Okay,
That's it, maybe, but maybe.
all right, so that's pretty straight away. Then number two, any thoughts about moving that shed out of the 25 to 50?
What we're thinking right now is we may take that down.
That's
It's in
the
pretty
same
good shape.
effect.
Mm.
Okay,
So.
think that's the way it's gonna go, or you thinking
Yes.
about it?
it's that we'll be
So,
reviewing.
so it
Okay.
didn't get a building permit and it didn't receive NRC approval when it was originally put in. So,
It was built back in the forties, but
the shed was built in the forties?
I don't.
Really?
Delia, take a
Come
look
on
at
now.
it, take a look at it.
It's coming
I
down,
don't
though,
think
right?
that
That's the
old.
point. It's coming down.
Look at
It's
that,
coming
yeah,
down.
so
So that
if
needs
you
to
can
go on the
show that
plan.
as being
Yeah.
removed from the, to be, just TBR.
Just a question, what's being irrigated inside the 100-foot,
Just be sections of the lawn.
just the existing lawn?
Well, it'd be, the existing lawn is, we'd be probably planting lawn up to about the hay bale line where it's open. So we keep the irrigation out of the 50-foot no.
Yeah, you could reach it with that.
Right,
Right.
but, okay, so there's no new lawn being extended inside the 100. It's just the
Um,
existing lawn that's gonna.
No,
be
will be disturbing probably up to that hay bale line, so we would be putting in new lawn up to probably about the 50.
So new lawn up to the 50.
Mhm.
So why not put the pheno markers along the 50?
Why, could you put them along the hay bale line?
Well, it's further in. I mean, at least it's consistent if it's along the line at the 50 foot line, right?
But I guess, and my question is, I mean, lawn inside the 100 is grandfathered if it's there, right? But if it's not there,
Yeah.
we're not talking about establishing new lawn. But Mark said, it sounded like some new lawn. Could you clarify that? I just-
Hmm.
a little
But it's
confused.
outside the 25.
So
Right.
can you clarify that, like where the existing limits and your proposed?
Cause my understanding is we shouldn't be adding lawn inside the 100. Right?
Or the
Because it's
50, I
a- it's
think.
a-
Well, at least within the 50, so we don't see a tree line on here. Can you just clarify where the
Sure.
existing limits and proposed limits of lawn are?
Okay, I mean, there's a lot of debris that was out there, so it's
Yeah.
disturbed up to almost the hay bale line,
Right,
so.
right.
Okay, so we gotta clarify that. Shed,
Mhm.
we got natives, which is great. Anything else from the commission?
No.
Okay.
You
Yeah,
know, I like the idea of having, markers at the most protective
sure.
limit,
Yeah.
but I think, we consistently, or the commission consistently ask for them at the 25,
Mhm.
just because it
Okay,
is the
okay.
no disturb zone.
Yeah.
Right,
So I would,
so the hay bale line is a good. That's what Mark just
it's
said.
not, I know, that's, to me, that's an odd line for a homeowner to maintain.
Hmm.
If you wanted to take this is the 25 here,
Mhm.
and you wanted to go from the hay bale line here.
So
and
make
go
it like the-
straight across.
to make it like the 30-ish
you know,
line.
Right, I think that's,
So just do a line perpendicular to where the,
yeah,
the westerly hay bale line intersects with the property line.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that sounds
Right.
good. Okay.
I'm okay with that.
okay.
I see from the photo you have knotweed. I've got the right one, yes.
Yeah,
there's-
no, you're
I'm
right.
sorry,
You're
yeah, it's
right.
okay. I
You're
thought-
right.
Because everyone was
Yeah.
quiet, I thought I might have been.
Yeah.
Speaking out of turn. I'm just interested in any thoughts about. I know knotweed's really hard to get under control, but has there been any? Did you see it, any thoughts?
If there's knotweed in there, we can move it, and. But
It is across a lot of property boundaries, that back area too.
Okay,
It's-
Mm.
oh, okay,
It's not just on this lot, it kind of runs the
Okay,
whole length of
okay,
the
so
street.
that's kind of a
It's like-
blacklist stuff.
Yeah.
Okay,
and it's a tough one,
oh, I know it is,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
but
Okay.
we would encourage it if that's something that.
it's just like you say, Bert, it's like, you
Yeah,
remove it
it's-
and unless all the neighbors.
Yeah,
remove it,
no,
you
I-
know what's gonna
That,
happen.
that,
So
I get
this
that.
is Richard Foreman Street, and he has gotten
Oh.
rid of it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
I spent all weekend doing garlic mustard.
Thank you.
Yeah,
You're a good man.
Yeah.
Okay, continuing to May 22
Sure.
with these clarifications. Good for Friday midday, give or take, for
Friday.
plans? Yeah, this Friday.
Well,
Yep, we can do that.
Okay,
it's just to summarize, it'd be the relocation of the pheno markers. Is it pheno or pheno?
Pheno, that's how I've always.
Removal of the shed and then just show where the existing lawn is, but.
And
we'd be
proposed.
looking to-
Yeah.
We'd be looking to, germinate what's disturbed out there right now.
okay, that sound right?
Yeah.
Okay, before we go, any public comment regarding the application? I don't see any here. Nobody online? From your end?
Oh,
All right, we'll look forward to seeing you back on the 22nd.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
good night.
All right, let's see, the next proposal up is the 155 Old Bedford Road. This is an NOI DEP file 137-1672. Good evening.
Hi, folks.
Could I just get your name
Sure.
and address for the record, please?
Yep. My name is David Cowell, with Hancock Associates, located out of our Marlboro office. I'm a senior wetland scientist. With me tonight, John Riley is a civil engineer with Hancock Associates based out of our Chelmsford office, as it pertains to stormwater design.
All right.
So,
Would you like us to,
yeah, if you wouldn't mind
Pull the
projecting
plans up.
the plan for us, please.
there you
So,
go. Thank you, Kurt.
So we filed a notice of intent and request to abate a stormwater drainage issue that's occurring at the Heritage Pool and Racket Club. I'll refresh the commission's memory. We had come in about a year ago to kick the tires on this. So in the existing condition, they have
So
two.
just to clarify,
Oh,
you
yeah.
you met with staff on that? You didn't meet with the commission on that?
No, I thought we came in under a meeting.
I don't recall.
Oh, well, let's start from scratch.
Okay.
That would be good.
All right, so in this circumstance, this is the northern portion of their lot. They have two tennis courts. The tennis courts, when they were permitted, there was a stormwater infrastructure installed. It's not functioning as it was designed or intended to. The issue that we're having or experiencing is that they're following heavy rain events that at the current discharge point, there is a stormwater discharge point that I think was installed at too high of an elevation that it's pooling water, but it's also backing water up such that the tennis courts are becoming flooded. And more important than the tennis courts, there is just south of the tennis courts, there's a small tennis hut, which is used for storage, but it also has electric conduit in it and a fire panel, which is flooding is getting in there, and that fire panel is short circuiting. Which has led to responses by the Concord Fire Department, noting that it was flooding and trying to pump that water out of there.
Can you show me where the, yeah.
Is it okay if I get up? We also
Well, I
have
don't
11
think-
by
I think-
17.
I
Hands up?
think you ought to work with Bert because
Oh, yeah.
nobody.
Okay, go ahead.
online could see this.
We were showing where the stormwater is not functioning, the,
Yep, Bert, you know where, yep. Bert's got it. He's on it.
okay.
So that's where the existing discharge point is, that isn't functioning as it was designed or intended.
Are the tennis surfaces hard surface? Are they impervious or
Yeah.
pervious?
They're hard surface, yeah.
Hard surface, okay.
Yep. So, we've evaluated what we can do as remedial action to improve the drainage out there, to get this to function as it was intended to originally. And, we are before you with a proposal, to put in a stone drainage swale along the outside of the court that would take the water and, drain it, to a point northeast of the drive. There's actually a stormwater discharge point existing at that location. There's wetland up there, but there's a stream that this would direct into.
Where's up in the far northern corner? is
The
that-
far northern corner. Yep,
Okay, got it.
yep, Bert's on it again. That's it. So in order to do this, we're proposing to install a stone stormwater trench along the edge of the tennis courts, along the western side, and then northward across the northern side, or eastward across the northern side. This does require some encroachment into the no disturb zone, which was, I think, met with some resistance from the conservation, or the Natural Resources Commission the last time we were here. Our points to make though is that it exists currently as manicured turf lawn in the existing condition. It doesn't require any removal of native vegetation in the buffer zone. Therefore, there's no additional encroachment in that area in terms of changing the grade. Obviously, the grade changes a little bit within the trench, but the trench would be within the footprint of grass. We did look at alternatives and we don't really have a practical alternative. We did look at, one alternative, which if we routed the drainage along the southern end of the tennis courts and then went north up the eastern side of the tennis court, it would minimize our alteration in the no disturb zone a little bit, but that actually will require vegetation removal, which I imagine the Natural Resources Commission would be a bit opposed to by the alternative. You can see, I don't know, Bert, if you can, on the eastern side of that tennis court, as you begin to approach the 50-foot, the setbacks, that tree line or vegetation line that you see on the right side. Yep, right there. Yep, Bert's on it. If you drag just a little further north, that we would, it doesn't have the same grass pathway that the opposite side does. So it would, albeit on paper, it would minimize alteration in the no disturb zone. It would require more vegetation clearing than native vegetation clearing than if we rooted on the western side.
What's the nature of the vegetation?
I think it's a little bit degraded. I don't recall exactly whether or not it's invasive species or native species, a little mix of both. So there's, a little mix there.
Where are you asking specifically?
On the east side.
On the other side,
Yeah.
I think, I think you provided that plan, the alternate plan.
Yeah.
I thought we had, right? I was asking John, coming in here whether or not we had provided that.
I thought it was, I thought we did see
Yeah.
that in the package.
Do you have a copy of it, Bert?
Yeah.
In the supporting documents, there's a screenshot of it, and it's the red dash line.
That's what I thought,
But I
yeah.
don't think we actually provided a full plan with. it.
Okay,
It was an exhibit as an alternatives analysis.
Okay.
If we have that exhibit, yeah, we could highlight that. I think it would illustrate our talking points.
So
But just
there's
oh.
some native and non-native shrub vegetation along that eastern boundary of the tennis courts.
Okay.
And then it's a what is the overstory? Is it hemlock or spruce? Do you remember?
Okay.
Yep. Yes, so that shows that the two lines
Yeah.
of the right side, that right path would be the alternative corridor. But again, it would entail some vegetation
Yeah.
removal, where the other side would
Well-
require no. We have none.
But you would, the vegetation on the north and west side is very close. And, digging a trench through there is going to damage a lot of tree roots. So have you looked at or had an arborist look at what that tree root damage would do to
No,
the existing trees that are within 10 feet of
how
where
how
you're?
deep would the trench be, John?
1 foot deep.
So you have
And there are tree roots at the surface.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah,
it-
Dealer,
it's
are
just
you
like-
doing that along
it's-
what
I'm talking about along
If
the
their-
the
their
north and
preferred
west.
plan.
the western
Yeah,
side. So
that's
you're concerned that
The north
albeit
and west.
it doesn't require vegetation clearing, that just by trenching it a foot would affect the root structure and thereby
Mhm.
may result in collateral damage to the trees that are abutting it.
But even more
Um,
so, I
yeah.
think the real problem with this plan is it's
Yeah.
going through the no disturb zone.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
wetlands.
just,
So
We
so
go-
in the
I think
north,
that's
if you
a
go
bit
to the
no.
north.
I just think it's a,
Yeah.
Plan
I
based on
too many
this plan.
people, I need to focus on one at a
yeah,
time.
Sorry.
apologies.
Delia.
Go ahead, Delia.
Go ahead, and I
Um,
can counter argument you guys in a minute. Go ahead.
So my point is that this section that is within the wetlands has not even been identified on the plan or in the narrative. That is alteration within bordering vegetated wetlands.
Yep.
Right? That requires a one-to-one mitigation. I mean, that is, with the Wetlands Protection Act,
Sure.
that's,
Yeah,
hasn't
I
even
understand.
been identified. And then I think what,
Okay.
the commission, you were gonna go with the 25 and the 50, so.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
you're in the 50, but more importantly, your bulk of your work and your preferred plan is in the 20, in the no disturb zone.
Right.
We just don't see that. To speak again,
Yeah.
just to lead off, I just
Sure.
don't see that happening,
Okay.
period,
I agree.
Okay.
so.
So, all right, with stormwater, it has to discharge to a wetland and it thereby needs to go through a 50-foot and 25 to get to the wetland in which the stormwater is discharging. You don't discharge the stormwater.
That's
at less than-
not necessarily,
Yeah.
not necessarily at all.
Okay,
And, you know.
I'm
you haven't
open-minded to the
provided-
commission if you guys have
So we had this
practical
conversation, I
alternatives.
think it was
to this.
maybe a year ago.
Yeah, it was about
Met
a
with
year ago.
Bert and I about this and,
Yeah, I didn't know
concerns-
Bert was here yet, yeah. Good to see you.
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
so the concerns I think that we raised at that time and, you know,
Mhm.
that are still, you know, germane. y- This is, you haven't provided any evidence that this is going to, retain the water, so rates and volume.
Yep.
There's no information, there's no stormwater management report that has been provided that says, you know, the changes, there won't be changes to the drainage patterns.
That's right, yep. We did understand that there were some concerns of the abutter that contributing water to this would increase the flooding on their
It's
property, but that's not.
really
yeah.
related more to the regulations.
Stormwater management standards, yeah.
The Wetlands Protection Act regulations,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Right, so that hasn't been provided. I think there's a,
But I think in one sense, it's almost like why provide that if
yeah.
you're not, if. You know,
Sure,
traveling
right.
through the no disturb zone just doesn't seem to,
Okay.
you know, for us, that's like, you know, it's sacred ground, right?
Right.
So it's,
Mhm.
you're asking to go through that with this incursion to solve a drainage problem for the tennis courts, which isn't. You know, again, we understand the issue, but we're not sure, we know that this isn't necessarily the right solution.
Right. We're open-minded to any suggestions of the conservation commissions for practical alternatives.
So-
We've
so I guess
analyzed
I
that
would
and-
sug-
and
I mean-
have nothing.
Two things that I might throw out there.
Sure,
You know, what happened with the original, you know,
Drainage system, yeah.
drainage system that,
It's
you know, why is that failing? And, you know, there was a mention of the fire panel in the
Yep.
tennis hut. Where is that? Is that like, if it's on the, so is that, can that be raised up so it's not being impacted?
I'm not sure why that would be impacting necessarily. Could you,
what would be impacted?
why the fire panel would be impacted?
It's
If
flooding into the
The
tennis
flooding
hut.
is going into the building.
I know,
So
but
is the
the
fire
fire
panel
panel is
that
usually
low?
5 feet on
It's
the
the
floor.
electrical conduit that's in the ground. And the
So
water's
can
getting
that be
into the
sleeved
conduit
with some,
under
or just, you know, put into some better?
Rerouted.
Yeah, I mean, typically you could put that, so that's a direct burial cable, the fire alarm, or it's not in a conduit, or it's, or.
there. I don't have the spec details.
Okay.
I've, as a wetland scientist, I've only been
No, yeah,
advised
no,
that it's,
sure.
it's flooding, it's short circuiting the fire panel and that's of issue and that's of concern.
Mm.
So,
Right, but it seems like there might be other alternatives that you could look at that are less destructive to, you know, the areas that are under the commission's purview.
okay.
I mean, alternate A certainly goes a long way to staying certainly out of the bulk of the 25. As you bring it around, you're gonna have to get up into the 50 and you're trying to get into the 25.
I
Great.
think you can just.
The
direct it
NDC.
We
Into
still
that,
need to put that
trench.
water into the
you
well.
know, yeah,
Yeah.
you're still working in wetlands.
Yeah,
in
no, you are.
bordering vegetated
Yeah,
wetlands.
yeah, that's true.
And the 25.
Yeah,
So I know,
beyond,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So it's gonna be
But
hard.
I think, you know, looking
again,
at,
I-
looking
I-
at what happened with the failure of the original system and seeing what
Yeah.
improvements can be made to that.
Could you explain just very briefly what that system is that is existing? Is it just a discharge? Is it just a stone
Think-
catchment that?
Sean, you may be better
Discharging
suited
to,
in
or-
review of the existing
Yeah,
stormwater
we can
infrastructure.
just, on the plan, as we're zoomed in here, scroll down a little bit. And then just outside the 100-foot buffer at the southern, if you come down the southern end here. That's a approximate location of an underground drainage system underneath that tennis court. That collects water from roofs from the kind of the pool pavilion area. There is an existing trench drain that runs parallel with that tennis court. It's actually would be in parallel to the stone trench that we're proposing. That is supposed to be collecting water from both tennis courts, and those two items are connected. And there is, if we can scroll to the north a little bit, to the overflow. There is a vertical pipe overflow to the north of both of those items that as the original stormwater report from the design, and I think what was it, 2011. in each storm event, that overflow pipe is supposed to be discharging at least some water into the wetlands, and that's kind of, that was their design.
I see. Thank you.
And is it not working at all now, or is it?
I think there's the grades around it in the wetland. If you can see, the wetland flags are located at 133, excuse me, and above. And then the tennis courts, and it's all slightly above the elevation of the overflow, so water comes up there and starts staging there until it can crest over that berm, and that's creating a pond at the back end by the trench and by the tennis hut.
Is the infiltration system underneath the south end not working? Is that failed? Is there an
No,
inspection for it?
No, I live next to,
Excuse me, could just name,
okay, but
excuse me, just,
you're-
that's fine, you can speak,
you're
but.
muddling around and I know everything's going on here. I've been there 35 years.
Excuse me, just,
Okay.
I'm happy for you to speak,
Okay,
but just in the right order, that's all,
okay.
that's all.
So we were not the design engineers. We reached out to be Peter Gammons is his name, who did the design. And he certified it, I think as recently as this past year. So it was constructed per design and functioning
Okay.
properly according to his certification.
Okay. Any thoughts? Yeah. No,
Mm-mm.
okay. Any other thoughts from the commission?
Well, clearly this just doesn't work.
Yeah.
This is not working for
Yeah.
us.
All right, we'll go out to public comment for the moment. Yes, name and address for the record, please.
Dan Coffey.
Address?
77 Old Bedford Road.
Thank you.
I've abutted the Heritage for 35 years. They put in this system in 2011. They created their own problem. And now what's happened, and I'll go back, now what's happened is my neighbor has more water than he's ever had. I've got more water. Okay? And what they've done is they've taken the water and they push it out. But because of the level of the ground, water on the ground, the water comes back. So they're pushing it out and it's coming back to us. And now what they want to do is now because they push it back and it gets to a certain level, it ends up on their court. So they create the problem. They put the building in there and they put this system. And they told us, oh, you're gonna be fine. 2011, you're gonna be fine. We're gonna push that water out. Well, lo and behold, I'm not an engineer, not realizing they're pushing water against water. And water is coming back to us. My neighbor, who's Mr. Peterson originally, and he sold the house to the Carlsons. They never had water back there. Then once in a while, if you had a really bad time, they'd have water. Now they always have water. Anytime we have a big storm, they've got water. These guys have created the problem. And now they're trying to solve their problem that they created, and they're gonna actually probably more than likely push more water back to us. And I can tell you my opinion of Heritage. Unfortunately, every 6 years, somebody leaves, the whole group leaves, and the next group comes in. So it's always about trying to do something for Heritage. And I never really thought that they've ever done a lot of things for the butters. It's always been Heritage and then you. And that's the way it is. They're nice people. They've always been nice people. I don't say that. But in 6 years, their kid graduates from the pool and they're out of there.
Gotcha.
And they're creating the problem that we're having now. And anything they do, it's gonna be worse. And I don't think that's right. Just because they gotta get water off their tennis court. You put it there, live with it.
Thank you. Yes,
Danielle Grandparlezon, property owner at 187 Old Bedford Road, neighbor to Mr. Coffey and the butters of the Heritage Club, here with my husband. We are very strongly concerned about the proposal. We are actually the property with which that, the proposal will be dumping the water into our property and then.
Which one is that?
Stream, quote unquote
The
stream.
one with the
It's
north
not,
arrow.
it's not a stream.
Okay.
it's, at that particular point, there's nothing there. And as was stated, it is already incredibly saturated. The comment was that when there's heavy rain, the tennis courts flood. When there's heavy rain, our entire backyard floods, and this trench is very close to the brink. And so we are very concerned that this is just gonna continue to cause additional problems for, our property.
Thank you.
We wonder why the club is not trying to consider how to fix the mitigation or the irrigation system that was put in back when they got approval from this organization to add the tennis courts and the tennis hut, which should have prevented this in the first place.
Thank you. All right, any comments online, Deal? Okay,
Oh, I'm sorry. Mm,
and I think to those comments, that's one of the things, you know, that Delia mentioned earlier, there's no, with whatever you propose, right? We need some engineering backing that up, right? To make sure that it doesn't impact any of the abutters.
Yep.
You know, what we see before us today doesn't have a lot of that data.
Yep.
So,
So we can certainly do the stormwater report, do the analysis, follow up with additional civil engineering analysis of the drainage.
well, no, I think you've got to, well, again, I can't, I only can perhaps suggest that what you have before us isn't acceptable. So I don't see why you'd want to go down that road. You
Right.
may want to kind of go
But
back.
again, I think we're at a stalemate where we're still struggling to correct this issue that's happening there. And it's not by, I don't want to say it's by fault of Heritage for creating the problem. They hired a professional civil engineer to design stormwater drainage for this site. It was reviewed and approved by the Conservation Commission. They came back with an as-built and it received certificate of compliance. So they hired the correct professionals to do it the right way.
Well, I know, but
It's
that's-
not-
I'm gonna say,
but it's
I'm
not
gonna
perfect.
say,
It's
it's not
neither-
working.
It's not working.
It's neither here
And-
nor there at this point though, right?
Right,
So-
and what you're proposing is not something that
We
is a
can,
permittable
right.
project. So I think you need to go back and understand what you can do that is not this, I mean, I think, you know, you could provide stormwater management, you can provide wetland mitigation, but you're still not getting out of the 25-foot no disturb, you know, and the 50-foot no, but I mean, these are,
BBW.
you know, issues that
Yeah.
I think are, I think are insurmountable
They are.
for you.
They are.
So I
Okay,
think
yeah.
you need to look at
Yeah.
other options
We
that,
have none, and
Well,
we're open to.
No, it's
suggestions, but
not us.
It's just, you
It's
can't
not-
do it.
It's up to the
you gotta
proponent
limit-
to, you know, whether engineering wise, other to bring people on to help, you know, bring something in front of the commission that's permittable and hopefully we'll solve the issue for not only yourself, but not add to the neighbor's burden.
Sure.
Right.
Did we look at what it would take for corrective actions on the existing system to lower the elevation of the discharge point as it is now? And whether or not that would function if we were to take corrective actions on the existing system?
Yeah, I think those are the
Did we look at
conversations.
that?
You need to pick up the whole entirety of the system, which would be picking up the entirety of the tennis court area, so that's what that would look like.
Sure.
Okay,
Groundwater is rising. I mean.
Yeah,
That's.
no doubt
part of
about
the
it.
Reality that's affecting you, I think.
yeah, it could be a combination of that and maybe who knows, maybe the design wasn't as good as people thought first time around. Again, not for us to debate here, but I would, again, maybe suggest to Delia's point, going back to the drawing board a little bit and seeing what you might be able to come up with.
All right. That's the struggle, is we've been at the drawing board for a year and don't have a practical alternative. Tearing up the entire system.
Again, we don't have to discuss it necessarily. You know, I think the onus is to maybe take a internal look and see what you might want to come back with.
All right,
Water
I get-
tennis, play some water tennis.
There you go.
all right.
Would
It's
you like,
frustrating that there's no deliberation on practical alternatives.
no, what you're asking us for is,
We aren't
what do
designing
you
If you're asking
think?
us to design your
And
project.
we're
No.
not designers, we're not stormwater experts, we're not, you know, we understand the generalities of things, it's more specifically on other items. But again, I don't think a proponent comes before the commission, says, what do you guys think? Give me some suggestions. That's not our role.
Okay,
Would you like to continue to May 22nd, or would you like us to continue further out?
continue to
Or
May
or do you
22nd.
wanna withdraw?
Continue. please.
Okay,
Continue to the next available hearing. We'll go back to the engineers and we'll talk about it. If we decide we want to continue it further or
Sure.
withdraw,
just let
then
staff
then
know.
we'll let you guys know.
That'd be great.
We don't want to have the doors closed on us.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
We don't want to close them. We just want to kind of clarify what's in front of us
Yep.
for you.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
All right, let's see. We've got an RDA for 2261 Monson Road, RDA file 24-5. Let me catch up a little bit here.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Let's
Yeah, my
see.
name,
Okay. Good evening.
hey, how you doing? My name is Montgomery Nasamba with Stamsky McNary at 1000 Main Street, Acton. I'm gonna be representing the applicant today.
Good evening.
So let me share my screen. Give me a second.
All right.
Can you see it?
Not, yes.
All good.
All right, okay, cool. So for the existing conditions, this is a 0.87 acre lot. We have an existing two-story dwelling. It has an existing deck right here, and has some trees and shrubs around the house. It also has an existing driveway right here and septic, and soil absorption system as well here, right here. So for the proposed conditions, the applicant is proposing a deck right here, a new deck. So they're basically gonna take out this existing deck and add a new one. And also they're gonna be adding a 3-season porch right here. So they're gonna be taking out this existing deck as well. And we have some shrubs over here. Those are gonna go out, and the portion of the existing patio is also gonna come out to facilitate this 3-season porch. So we also have a bordering vegetated wetland right here. So extends a 100 buffer zone onto the property, but all the proposed work is gonna be outside of, it's not gonna be inside this 100 buffer foot zone. It's not gonna be inside here. Yeah,
Okay. You all set?
yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you for the overview. Any
Pretty
questions?
straightforward. I don't see
We're going
anything.
outside the buffer zone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
You got your protection. And those are, just a quick question, those are some new plantings in the back as well?
In the back, no,
Right there.
this right here, this planting is already
Okay,
existing on the site.
That's fine.
Yeah,
Just curious, that's all. Thank you.
yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. It's pretty straightforward.
Yes.
Nick,
Yep.
any
No.
from your end?
Very good.
Okay, any public comment regarding 260, is it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
261.
261 Mountain. Let's make sure I get the address correct. Okay, not seeing any? All right. So, let's see. I think with this one, I think we're all negative determination. Okay,
So I
Yeah.
move that we issue a negative determination number 4 for 261 Munson Road, RDA file number 24-5.
Second,
thank you. And the vote. Sarah,
aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Nick,
All right.
and I am an I as well. Thank you,
All set,
Montgomery.
Montgomery.
Good luck with the project.
All right, thank you very much.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yep. All right, so we got our last one up tonight under new applications is a, let's see, abbreviated notice of resource area delineation, 1075 Lowell Road, DEP file 137-1671.
You should have these.
Oh, you have them already?
I think we do.
Karen, we have all the most recent drawings, right?
So.
We'll give this back to you tomorrow. Just make sure. Thank you.
Better to have twice than not enough.
There you go. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Larry Beals. We filed the application. You've probably seen this, the abbreviated notice of resource area determination in red. Oh, good. That's the drawing. Is there, well, I had some air photos for orientation that might, I'm not sure who's running this. Oh, you are. Are there any air photos in there?
There might be in the packet. I'd set the plans. I can pull those up though. Just give me a second.
I've got, they're on that thumb drive. And that's all set up as a PowerPoint.
Okay.
So while you're doing that, I'll give you a little bit of history on the
Thank you.
project. So this project originally began with this commission back in 2017. The property was previously owned by Marshall Tobin's, and we were hired to map the wetlands on it. Great. And if you can make those full screen, it'd be a little bit easier. Yeah, perfect, perfect. Okay, now we're going.
Speedy.
So, this is our cover sheet. The site is outlined in purple. As I said, we mapped the wetlands originally in 2017. Delia is familiar with the site. It's a big site with a lot of wetlands, a lot of resource areas. There's riverfront, there are ponds, there are bordering vegetated wetlands, there's mean annual high water, there's floodplain. So, we covered the full gamut. And some of them start and stop in various locations. Anyway, that was approved and ORAD was issued coincidentally May 4th, 2018. So if you do the math, had we gotten 2 extensions, it would have expired 4 days ago. We never filed for an extension. And for a lot of reasons. The property has been purchased, people have been studying it, thinking about various alternatives, and we're at the point now where we need to redefine the wetlands. And we knew that they probably would have changed. So why not just redo it? So if we can go to the next drawing. On these drawings, north is to the right. So for orientation, you can see where Lowell Road is. Again, we're outlined in purple. The fields and the gatehouse that you can see from the road are right off of Lowell Road. And the area that we're concentrating in is the southwest corner. That is likely where development may occur in the future. We have some idea of what that would be. So we mapped the wetlands that are within a few hundred feet of that area, just so we know where the resource areas are.
The southwest corner, I see the house. So where in the corner are you talking?
Would you like me to point? Oh,
I love
yeah,
that, yeah.
Up in there.
yeah.
Oh, and there.
You know, with north being to the right.
Oh,
I was
I see,
thinking
I
of
see.
this,
Okay,
yeah.
so I was turned around.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was too.
Um,
Okay.
Good, so we went out there and, oh, and I should also say that initially this was peer reviewed. So it wasn't just our opinion. Delia had looked at it, and because of the scale, I think the decision was made, let's bring in a peer reviewer, and David Pickard. I don't know if he still does work with you guys, but he's a very competent, capable wetland scientist. So the boundary that we established back in 2018 is a solid boundary. So what we did is we went back out there and reevaluated it this time. Many of the original flags were still in the field, which makes it really easy. And we had located everything and with a sub-meter GPS, so we were able to get back on that line pretty easily. We did find some discrepancies, so if you can move to the next drawing. This is an overall site, and we've combined all of the resource areas that we have mapped recently as well as originally, but we've been very careful to add notes specifying what areas are current and what were mapped previously that we're not asking you to verify. So there's only a portion of it. And I have another drawing that highlights those areas. But this shows that you've got Spencer Brook that flows into the site from the north or from the right. It forms a water body, a pond. At the downstream end, on the left-hand side of the word pond, there's a dam that outlets water. And that was studied fairly carefully, as to whether or not it was it wasn't a quick determination. We did a flow test.
Yeah.
And determined that there was no flow through there, but no velocity, I should say.
So looking at whether or not it was perennial.
Correct, correct. And the determination was made that it was a pond. So Spencer Brook basically comes in from the right or from the north. About at the property line, it runs into the pond. It's a pond all the way down to where it narrows up. That's where the dam is. And then it flows down past the Rod and Gun Club as Spencer Brook again. So why don't we go to the next one? So what we're seeking approval of is the boundary that is shown in blue, in yellow on this plan. And again, you know, if we're gonna do something in the upper left-hand corner, which is that southwest corner, then we studied all the resource areas around it. So the yellow is the boundary of the bordering vegetated wetlands. You see a blue line on the left-hand side of the drawing. That's mean annual high water. All the way over on the left side.
This guy?
Correct, correct. And under the original ANRAD that we filed, there is a stream that flows in there. And we had a note that indicated that we had not determined whether it was perennial or not. We have subsequently determined that it is perennial. We all suspected it was perennial. And it is indeed perennial. So we have the mean annual high water mark there, which fortunately this time of the year it was very clear. I think we looked at that and, you know, there's been enough heavy rain that you could see where leaves were moved due to the flow, because the mean annual high water had come up, transported the leaves. And then beyond that drift line where the leaves aren't disturbed, we assume that's beyond the mean annual high water. There's nothing that moved it this year. Interestingly, it continues to flow to the south or to the left. There's a stone wall that goes all the way through the wetland. Enough debris had accumulated in that wall. So the mean annual high water follows that wall to the east because it's dammed up essentially. So that mean annual high water moves to the east and then continues on its way through a pasture. We've indicated the wetlands in yellow, mean annual high water in blue, and then there is floodplain around the pond, which is shown in a lighter blue. And I think we may have one more drawing. Okay, so this is a much more accurate drawing, at least from an engineering perspective, because it's not confused with the aerial photography. It shows the boundaries, shows the resource areas. There's a system to the colors where the green is the bordering vegetated wetlands and the blue is the river zones. The difference between when we did it in 2018 and now is shown in red. You see on sort of on the left-hand side, there's a finger that comes up, and that wasn't there 6 years ago, and I guess that's why you remapped, because wetland boundaries are not static systems, and that was clearly a wetland. It had the soils and the plants and the hydrology, so we mapped that, and then just to the right of that, on the other wetland system, there's a finger of wetlands that came out into the field, so that's shown in red. Otherwise, it was pretty, when you get into that southwest corner, the wetland boundary is very distinct because you come down a steep slope and then right at the toe of slope is where the wetlands are. So probably more than you want to know, but that's the wetlands on this.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate
75
that.
Willow Road.
Yeah, yeah, the graphics were very good too.
Oh, thanks.
Very, very helpful
Thanks.
for such a large property.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's important. Small site, you can keep track of it in your head. Big
Yeah.
site, you get pretty
Yeah.
confused.
I would agree. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any comments from the commission on this? Seemed like it was a good plan, picked up current issues, to Larry's point of the reflagging. You good, Nick? Bill?
Yeah, I'm good.
Sarah?
Oh, good.
Okay. Any public comment regarding this application? Not seeing any? All right, I think we have a finding for you.
Yeah, we do. The finding is for 1075 Lowell Road, DEP file 137-1671. And the Natural Resources Commission has verified the following resource area boundaries as shown on the abbreviated notice of resource area delineation sheets 1 through 4 prepared by Beal Associates with a final revision date of April 22nd, 2024. There are a series of wetland vegetative flag numbers that are in this finding. I don't need to read those, do I? No, I didn't think so.
No.
And note that there may be other resource areas present on the site which the commission was not asked to verify. And in addition, the commission was unable to verify resource area boundary flags other than the ones approved in this order. For this reason, the commission reserves the right to review any future proposal for work on site to determine if there is a resource area or portion thereof not verified in this order that may trigger the commission's jurisdiction.
Second.
All right, we'll take the vote. Sarah?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
And I am an aye as well. Thank you, Larry.
You're welcome. Thank
Appreciate
you
the
for
good
your
work.
time.
Yep.
Sure.
All right. Sure. Great. Moving on to our next agenda items, minor modifications. First one up is Bushnell Construction, 76 Bruce Road, DEP file 137-1646.
Hi, guys. Yep. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
Mike, Michael, if we could have your name and address for the record?
Yep, Mike Bushnell. I live at 105 Northwoods Road, Groton, but this is in regards to 76 Bruce.
Yeah, you got it.
Pretty straightforward as any project. As I got to the end of it and a buyer got involved, some minor requests and modifications with the patio and some fencing, which I think is shown in that plan.
We'll see if Bert can bring it up.
Yeah, thanks, Bert.
Coming up.
Oh, sorry, I was trying to bring it up too on my phone. I didn't have any luck.
There you go.
Yeah, again, so a buyer got involved and requested some fencing and enlarged patio. So we have patio encroaching further into the 100-foot buffer there. And the back, we have fencing proposed in the back that will stop at the 50-foot no build zone. And there is a fence that is, it's as built, it's there that gets to the 50-foot buffer zone, I think. Sorry, I'm
Bert,
looking
could
at this wrong.
you just identify those for
Yeah, so the patio
us? I'm not sure I
right here,
had that plan.
Yeah.
and then the fence stops right there.
Okay.
So the fence goes from the north of the plan coming down and stops at the 50?
Correct.
Okay. I got you. And where's the 50 and the 100? I can't quite pick that up.
50 is the
Oh,
line
there it
right
is.
here,
Okay. Oh,
and the 100's out.
okay. So there's the
Here.
50. So Michael, is the patio, that's a totally new patio? It's not being expanded? There's not a
It
pre-existing
was
patio?
requested to be expanded by the
This is-
buyer.
This is the expanded view.
Do we know what the delta, I mean, I'm just trying to understand the delta because there'd be some, I think, mitigation here, right?
there
I mean, you're talking about, well, you're talking about,
How many square feet
Yeah.
difference?
geez, so this is going in. So it's just in the 100, right? It's,
Yeah,
you're
sure.
like 75 to 100, right? Yeah, okay. So any idea on the square footage, Michael, in terms of the delta, because that's a mitigation issue?
Right, we are roughly 14 by 18.
So what was
180,
there,
240 square feet.
so what was there before this, Michael?
Yeah.
Was there a patio plan there or not?
The patio was there. There was half the size of what you see was in, I'm pretty sure maybe in the original order of conditions or maybe it wasn't called out. I'm sorry, I don't have the older one.
So there's a patio in the original design of X size, and now you're just you're
Doubling it?
increasing the size.
Correct, and yeah, maybe it wasn't in the original design. I apologize. I don't have the first one
Was
with
it?
me.
I think Bert's
I think
confirmed
Bert,
it was in the original design,
Okay,
so.
yeah, thank you, Bert.
So I think we'd be looking for just an exact square foot delta from,
And
You know, if it's,
And the
if it's,
mitigation.
you know,
modification to the mitigation.
yeah,
right, which would
That's
be
all.
4 or 5 shrubs.
yeah, yeah, pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, all right.
and then the fence is just, you're just adding a section of fence up to the 50,
Yeah.
so I think that's okay. Right?
Correct.
It's
Yeah.
pretty straightforward.
Okay.
Is he gonna just get, just some, how do you wanna modify it?
Yeah, so I think, Mike, if you wanna just, you know, I don't recall on this project what the mitigation was. But if you can just increase, you know, the shrub plantings,
Sure, that if you put it back up, that's that back right corner, we can add to that.
yeah,
Or you just want a simple existing plan, just those noted on the plan for the file and call it?
we can, we just make a little note
That's
in the
fine.
file that we're gonna do a minor mod.
Okay.
And then we say what the, you know, we print out his, you know,
And just mark
next
that up.
request and yeah, and then we'll just say, you know, NRC approved on
Gotcha.
that meeting and requested, you know, 5 additional shrubs.
Okay, all right.
You know,
Um,
speaking off the top of my head, and I probably will screw it up, not because I'm a carpenter, not a. Well, I think there was a lot of existing that we have now eliminated. We had existing lawn way back there. Does that make a difference? So we've
I guess
improved
it's that
everything
part
in
of
this site.
Probably was picked up in the first one though, right? Or-
Right, I mean, right, presumably it would have been counted towards the mitigation in the initial permit, Mike, or I don't know if it was, I don't recall. if it was
Okay,
or
yeah,
not.
either do. It's pretty minor. We whatever
Yeah.
you guys want there, we'll just do.
Okay. Okay, so fair to say you guys will just work out the exact 3, 4, 5 bushes to
Yeah,
account
I
for
mean,
the
just-
differential.
Just send us an email of what you propose to plant, so we have that for the file.
You got it. Appreciate it.
All right, before you go, since this is we want to vote on this, right? Yep, and so before we go, any public comment regarding this minor modification? What's in here? Okay,
Can we vote before the modifications are in?
I think you could term the vote, you know, subject to meeting approval of staff or something to that effect. Bill?
Okay, sure. I move that we approve of a minor modification for 76 Bruce Road, DEP file 1371646 as approved by the staff, for the NRC staff.
Second.
All right, and the vote, Sarah?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
And I am an aye as well. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
All right, next up. 61 Sunnyside Lane, DP file 137-162 for minor modification.
Good evening, for the record, Mark White, 233 Independence Road. With me tonight is David Frank, the homeowner of 61 Sunnyside.
Evening.
Or you should, I colored copies of it, you change it. So what we're looking to do is to put in a set of stairs, a walkway, and a small patio, a 12 by 12 patio into an area that has existing lawn, or will be existing lawn. It's 51, closest edge is 51 feet off the edge of wetland, and that's to the 6-inch stone wick that we'd be putting on the outside of the impervious pavers, just to collect any water that would run off. You see, it's going into an area that was approved for lawn, so.
Would the patio, would it be permeable pavers or is it?
Well, we put the stone wick on the outside, so that would collect any water that's gonna go into the gravel that's on site.
Okay, stone wick, stone trench, is that?
Yeah,
same
so
thing?
it's like 6-inch wide, be
Yeah.
2 feet deep into the gravel, so
Okay,
would collect all the any runoff. Plus there's gutters on the roof above it, so you're really not gonna get a lot of water onto that surface, and it's relatively flat in that area.
and given that it's grass today, putting on a deck or patio, if you will. Any mitigation involved, Delia? I'm just trying to recollect, or is it just grass for papers?
I mean, it's, I would say it's a little gray because it probably wasn't grass when it was initially brought forward, but you know, that's what was approved.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I think it's really up to how the commission wants to proceed with it. I don't think it's necessary to, you know,
Mitigate.
I don't think so.
Okay, all right. And you're over 50 feet away from the what, from the BBW, okay. Any other comments from the thoughts?
No.
They're wearing you down.
Yeah, that's basically it.
Yeah, could have been last.
That's true.
Mike warmed us up, or Michael warmed us up.
Yeah, exactly.
At work, you don't want to be last, people get grouchy.
No.
Never.
Never. Okay, any public comment regarding this minor modification? Good, Bert? Nothing? Okay. I think with that,
All right.
you seem like you're in the mood, Bill.
Yes. Okay, I move that we allow for a minor modification at 61 Sunnyside Lane, DEP file number 1371620, as worked out by the Natural Resources Commission staff.
Second,
And the vote. Sarah?
aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
And I am an aye as well.
Thank you for your
Thank
time.
you. Good luck with the modification. Evening. All right, other business. Up in front of us is 83 Pilgrim Road, comma, land swap. Yes, come up and join us at the table if you like.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Dwight Dunn with Epsilon Associates. Well, this is Samuel Sochinzer. I've never pronounced.
Schultzinger.
Schultzinger.
Good evening.
And Nicole Perlot, also with Epsilon Associates.
Good evening.
And we're here tonight just to talk about, you know, we've been working with Sam and his wife to, you know, look at putting out just a residential dock. You know, a pile supported dock with a float out into the river. So that they can access the water with kayaks, canoes. They currently do that, you know, through a pedestrian path that's been a well-worn path out to the river. And would like to do that so they're not walking through the muck.
Okay.
To get out to the river. However, when we prepared the draft NOI, we sat down with staff, with Bert and Delia. Lo and behold, there is a finger of frontation land that sticks out and fronting the property. And
Bert, can you show it to us?
Yeah, I'm
I
just,
have a printed map too, if that's helpful. It's.
Well, it's
like-
probably better up here so
Okay,
that
perfect.
anybody in Zoom can see. and
Perfect,
I
yeah.
appreciate that.
so can
Thank
see-
you.
And frankly, you know, we'll be honest, when we looked at it, the way that the survey was drawn by the surveyor showed the town of Concord land, you know, on, we'll just say that the plan is north, just so we're,
Sure.
I'm not
that's
sure
fine.
exactly which, I think the compass direction north is up. But, so, you know, basically to the south, we, you know, figured that was town land. And just along the river, we assumed that was just, state, you know, public trust lands, you know, along the river, chapter 91 jurisdiction. But lo and behold, it's out into the river and there's that small little finger triangle. We talked with Delia and Bert about some potential options of, you know, with the dock just being where it's, the intent would have it be an elevated boardwalk and out, then have it go to floats. And maybe having that boardwalk span the town land, so there's no structure on the town land. That didn't
Just an
seem-
easement or something? or-
And so the question became, you know, how's the best way to deal with this? And, you know, you know, an option could be an easement, an option could be a land swap. You know, but we didn't, in discussion with Delia, we didn't think an easement might work. But that's why we were thinking maybe a land swap with a ratio, greater than 1-to-1.
Okay, thank you.
And that's what we're, we wanted to talk with you guys about that, is whether or not this seemed like a feasible option.
How about the option of, since you're very close to the back lot line, talking to your neighbors?
Well, I think Sam is probably best suited to talk about that.
Okay.
Because there's.
Because that would be that would probably be the most practical course, if you will.
Correct. And I think in many situations, that might be a practical course. Some situations with neighbors, it may not be a practical course, and that does not seem
Yeah,
to be feasible.
We're open to that option. It's not a valid option.
Okay,
Um,
well, you can't
But-
choose your neighbors, so we understand that
Yeah.
as well, so that's, okay, so that's foreclosed from your perspective.
unfortunately, yeah.
Okay, all right, so there's a lot of conservation land there, which is great, but I'm not sure adding, or swapping a little bit of land for a little bit of land is gonna be an appropriate benefit to the town. So any other thoughts? I know I'm talking to staff. Delia had mentioned maybe along the lot line, maybe you provide access to that conservation land.
What, can you just
Along the-
explain what the land swap would look like? I'm not really following what we're talking about here.
Well, the green hatched area is conservation land.
Right.
Right,
So that's, town of Concord conservation land.
yeah,
That L shape, as we look at it. When the surveyors and the engineers looked at it, that seemed like a reasonable layout. As we look at it again. We think
In terms of the dock,
that's the proposed
that's a
dock.
long dock.
Yeah, it is.
Well,
That's-
to get out to
You're talking
the,
a
to get out to the
couple hundred
water
feet.
and to get out to an option where we're not.
Mm.
cover the mud.
Right,
Yeah.
the high waters, the flood waters bring the river fairly upland.
Mhm.
And so that's why it starts so far on the land, so that there would be the option to get it out to, be able to get out onto the water without having to go through the mud. That's why that's so long, because of the the wide fluctuation in the water elevation and the grading out here, the grades out here mean that just that change in elevation leads to a large horizontal
Well, I guess we could
change.
maybe get to the details of the dock, but I guess we're putting the cart before the horse here,
Exactly,
right?
that's why we're here tonight, because we try to
So-
get the temperature of an option of getting a dock across that property, whether it, like we're saying, a land swap or something like that.
Well, I would think just a general overview is whatever you might propose, it ought to be very compelling to the town and benefit.
Well,
To allow anything to happen here, because one, it opens up a little bit of again, precedent,
Yeah.
right? We're not in the business to swap with private citizens for, equal or less benefit necessarily. And so, at first blush, what we don't see to Sarah's question is, where's the compelling, effort here to
Yeah.
have us consider this?
well, I think the compelling effort that I see is the owners, will continue to use the path and access the river. And when they-
No, the compelling,
Right,
the
well,
commission is talking about, what is the interest to the town?
right, well, what I'm thinking about is the interest to the resource areas that get compacted, that get mucked up.
No, that's,
But
we're
that's-
talking about how much land, how much land are you
That's
talking
a
about?
pre-existing
Conflating two
condition,
issues.
if you're
Okay,
using
yeah.
it, you're
How much
using
land are
it.
you talking about? How much land do you wanna take, that you're suggesting you're taking
Yeah,
off?
we haven't, before we spent the effort to look at the square footage, we wanted to know if this would be an option. The idea would be to have the ratio be more than 1-to-1, so that the town ends up with more conservation land than they have right
Yeah,
now.
no, but I guess when I look at it and we look at that, again, I don't know what the square footage is or anything like that, but it seems relatively de minimis.
Right.
So even if you were 5 times bigger, 10 times bigger and added on to this relatively good size conservation area, it doesn't seem like it would have again, just speaking personally, a great effect on that conservation area. A pathway from Pilgrim Road to the conservation area would open up the conservation area from a different point of view, a different point of access, and have, at least a broader benefit to the town in general. Or something like that, that's, a real betterment for town to access that land.
Because one of the issues I think that's been pointed out is that this has to be approved by town meeting. It's not something we can approve.
Correct. Yeah, very
So
true.
the town, everyone in town has to see that we don't want every citizen who's next to conservation land coming in next week.
Cutting it, bartering with us.
Looking for a little land here and there. Hey, you do 5-1 over there. Can you do, we'll give you 6-1.
Yeah.
We don't want those discussions, but if we go to town meeting, if you go to town meeting and you make a case that you've really made something much better for the town, then we're not gonna see a lot of people coming in with small swaths we don't want to deal with.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm not sure that it's just, if it says 1 square foot of land, we'll give you 8 square feet.
Right.
Because I'm just not sure how that is really a real betterment to the conservation area. It adds a little bit more land, but it's not what's it doing for the greater good of the town, if you will, and the citizens.
Okay, I mean,
We don't know that suggestion was practical, but.
Absolutely not.
We're just giving.
right,
you
just-
I mean.
An example that's meaningful, if you will, or could, subject to discussion, but anyway, just a concept.
Right. I'm just trying to, this, that we had not discussed that type of aspect of the betterment. I was, looking at the betterment being greater area of conservation land in the,
I'm not sure we're thinking that, but.
Correct. No,
that's all.
that's fine. That's a perspective.
Right,
Yeah,
so what we had
I-
talked about was just, that it needed to be very compelling and,
Yeah.
it was not something that we had had a lot of, time to review
Yeah.
before we talked about it.
Correct.
And understanding the, Mr. Schulzinger's perspective that you want to have this, access, and it's challenging to work with the neighbor to the north. But it is, it's a big parcel that you have. But trying to find that compelling, reason
Yep.
that the town would say this is of value to the town, because they're
Sure.
obviously, it's public lands.
Yep.
And that's where the benefit is to the town.
And I think as Nick said, we're be very careful about this because we do not want to,
Right.
open the
Right.
door
Yeah.
to,
Right.
Hey,
That makes. perfect
what
sense.
about me over here?
No,
Right?
Yeah.
So
That
we
sounds
gotta.
good. I want to put a
Yeah.
pocket too.
Yeah.
How about 20 square feet?
I was on.
Hey, I'm giving you 30.
Yeah,
I was on my commission for many years. We
Yeah,
had
no, I
a similar
appreciate that.
situation.
Yeah.
And that landowner just wanted to buy it and we're like, no, we're not gonna set a dollar value for. But,
Exactly.
but they had some other legal complications to their
Yeah.
issue.
Oh.
And that solution was a land swap because of that big picture.
Yeah, different circumstances,
Finding the
sure.
facts when you look at the,
Yeah.
so I'm not saying that is apples to apples here.
Yeah.
How big is your lot?
Do you know the answer to that?
I don't know the.
2.25
Yeah.
acres.
okay.
That's
Yeah.
pretty large.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But as I'm just looking at the spacing between the houses, that might be a little.
Yeah,
Yeah,
how much
I don't
frontage?
think
Yeah,
I
you
don't
don't
think
have
your
any-
neighbor's gonna love that, and you're probably not gonna love it either,
No.
Bert
It
and I
actually looks
talked
like
after the
it
call
actually
that-
looks like your side yards at the front of your property are
Pretty-
relatively
Pretty
tight.
tight, yeah.
Yeah.
Correct.
Right.
Given the pie shape,
Right.
kind of,
Right.
sort of, yeah.
And I guess
And that's just something that we tossed around.
That's all, yeah, again,
Mhm.
that may rise to the level of compelling, but again, the town citizens will ultimately decide that, but
Yeah.
it shouldn't go that far, that's
Right,
all.
right.
Anyway, food for thought,
Food for thought would, I'm just, since we're, here discussing it, there's
Yeah.
nothing in front of you to make
No.
decisions, but it's good to hear this perspective. I hadn't, looked at it from that perspective. In terms of the access
it looks like the conservation land goes up to Pilgrim Road. And unfortunately, it's right at the edge of this image.
Yeah.
But over to the right.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's a trail that's just above where it says
No.
Town of Concord, or if that's just kind of
I
a
think it's
change
just-
in vegetation.
Probably just where the survey is for the conservation.
Well, it look, just in the aerial image, that it looks like there's,
It looks like a trail.
There's a signature.
Right where the.
Yeah, I see it,
Yeah.
yeah.
It actually looks like the lot line
Yeah.
leads over to the green line and,
It's not a trailhead.
yeah,
No, okay.
Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
just trying to think where it's tight.
I'm assuming you've had a detailed survey, right, done on your land recently? This shows the actual, okay. Cause it's just a little bit, if that northern boundary is just
Yeah,
a
if it
little bit
came
of
down a little bit,
it's a little
yeah.
straighter and that last piece.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, but that's
That'd be good.
been surveyed.
Mhm.
There was an order of conditions for their
Ah,
house
okay.
issued a few
Okay.
years ago.
okay,
Cause that's a new house on a lot that had previously had a
Ah,
house. So it was
gotcha.
a knockdown and a rebuilt.
gotcha.
I get where I was coming from is just thinking about an access off of Pilgrim Road directly to the,
Behind all those properties all the way over.
yeah, extending from Pilgrim Road over to the right. That's where the conservation land goes up to the road.
What
And that-
about,
and
what are you
having a path there
suggesting?
and then extending over. I don't know.
Constructing a path on our
Conservation
property?
land?
And I don't know, I mean, if you. in
That's
terms
not,
of
that's,
access.
No.
we could do that, I mean,
Yeah.
we could do that
We do that
anytime.
all the time.
So, but that's not for us to do to solve your issue.
Yeah.
No, not for the town.
That's not for you to do to solve
Just
your
think
issue.
about options.
That's all.
No,
Okay,
that's not. No, I mean, there has to be a no net loss of conservation land.
Right.
Under Article 97, so
right,
that's.
well, that's why
not
we're,
legally
in
an
terms of the
option.
swap would be greater, that, yeah, that's,
Mhm.
so that there would be no net loss, to be a net gain.
Yeah.
That, look at that, based on that principle.
Okay,
Okay.
fair to say you've heard some of the concerns. We're open for another conversation. Would you like us to continue to May 22, or do you want
No,
to
there's
think
no-
about
there's
this?
no-
Oh, that's okay. Oh, that's right, it's informal.
This is
I'm
just a
sorry.
discussion,
Oh,
informal
then,
item.
thank you.
To, as I said, to. Understand what your issues are, your concerns are, to.
Yeah.
Consider that option, but, we can see if there's any other. Types of other options that are out there, but. Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening. Town of Lincoln, Adams Woods Trail signage. Delia?
Okay, so this is, a petition, we had this on an agenda a few weeks ago and then did a site visit to look at, Lincoln's request for allowing bicycles on a section of the yellow trail, to connect two sections of trail, in Adams Woods. The commission was comfortable with the proposal as proposed. So we just wanted to put this back on the agenda, so that you could make a motion to accept that suggestion that that additional section of trail be implemented or be able to be
Accepted,
signed
yeah.
as a bicycle access trail, and then also to suggest to Lincoln that they put up these trail courtesy signs that recognize bikes must yield to pedestrians and equestrians.
It makes sense. Yeah,
Sure.
okay. Anybody want to put that motion together?
Sure, I move that
There
we accept the trail that proposed a use of trail in the Wright Woods as proposed by the town of Lincoln. And that we request Lincoln to place signs allowing biking on that section of the yellow trail as identified by the Natural Resources Commission, or Natural Resources staff.
And the signage.
And
that,
include the
the
courtesy signs.
And the
signage.
courtesy sign, yes.
All right, and the vote, Sarah?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Nick? Aye. And I am an aye as well. All right.
Yeah.
Did you know somebody
That's
pointed
good.
out to me after our walk that there's an actual old bicycle racing?
Yes, there's a
Yeah, there's a
a
racetrack.
racetrack
There's a
back there.
racetrack.
Yeah, there is, yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
Like
opposite
1850s,
Walden Pond.
yes.
Back in the day, trains used to come out and bring people to Walden
I
Pond
think
to
I-
have bike
yes.
races.
Yeah. And,
Okay.
and on the older pond
Hold
property.
on, we're not done yet.
Nope.
We're not done
Okay,
yet.
okay.
All right, so we need, Delia, you want,
Hold
No
that
fun,
thought.
no
No
fun.
fun yet, all right, what do we got?
you're looking for a motion for three? The,
For the admins, before we go, is that where you are?
No, how about
The steward,
certificate of compliance?
Oh, can we actually first go, the Talbots are here and
Oh,
been
sure.
waiting very patiently.
Sure.
Oh, sure.
Yep.
For, a certificate of
Yeah,
compliance.
sure, no problem.
Yeah,
Okay,
if you wanna just,
Yeah, it's just an outstanding order.
sorry about that.
They caught for, like reconstruction of a sunroom. Had some mitigation with it. I was out there a couple weeks ago.
They did a good job.
All looks good.
All right.
All right.
Trees did a good job.
All right, so I move that we issue a certificate of compliance to 243 Heath's Bridge Road, DEP file 137-1359.
second.
And the vote, Sarah.
Aye.
Bill.
Aye.
Nick.
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well.
Good.
Thank you, guys. Sorry for the long wait. All's well that ends well.
Okay.
Okay.
The insurance company, we're waiting for them to.
So we'll get you that certificate of compliance for the old order conditions mailed out to you.
Great, thank you very much.
Yeah, yeah.
and Karen will have instructions in the letter. It will need to be recorded at the
Right.
registry.
And if you want
For public
anything
voting.
done, you know, in the area, I mean, we're happy to. Did you get to walk the property?
Yeah.
Because I don't even know what we have for invasives. I mean, I think we're clean, but relatively clean, but there could be things that I missed.
There's
We've
a
been working at.
couple multi-floor roads sort of in the back, but very little.
Oh, okay, yeah,
It
yeah,
looks good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
good.
Great.
I still haven't figured out, because I haven't gone out pulling,
Oh.
what the garlic mustard looks like.
Oh.
Oh, we have,
Oh.
Everybody in our neighborhood is out doing it. but
Yeah,
I
yeah,
we have
can't do
informational
that.
sheets on the table out there. Tells you
Well, I
what they
looked it
look
up.
like.
I've
Yeah,
seen it in a picture,
Okay,
but I
good.
gotta find it, I'm like.
Oh, once you see it,
You'll
you'll,
know.
Oh, yeah, you see it
The
everywhere.
good thing is that they're really easy to
Everywhere.
pull,
yeah.
which is great. That's not the only thing.
It's flowering right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, have a
Good evening.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, excellent.
Thanks a
Thank
lot.
you.
Thank you. Take care.
So we need to go back to these, right?
Yep, so the motion to accept those, read those off.
Are we talking, I'm sorry,
The
Administrative
Haywood
approval.
Meadows Stewardship Committee, you want a
okay,
motion for
so
that?
did you
Oh.
confirm with Shannon that those need to happen now? Prior to
I confirm the May 31st.
May 31st?
Correct.
So, okay, so they can be, yes, please proceed, I'm sorry.
Okay,
Okay,
go ahead.
I move that we approve appointments for the Haywood Meadows Stewardship Committee. All to expire May 31st, 2027. For Chris Van Dyke at 344 Barrett's Mill Road. John Thompson of 2221 Fairhavenville Road. And David Bell of 1657 Monument Street.
Second,
Second?
thank you, Bill, and we'll take the vote. Sarah,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Nick,
Aye.
and I am an aye as well. And
Thanks.
last two little issues.
Out of interest, were they all new people or have they? they're-
No, they're
Reappointing.
reappointments.
Yes, I thought they might be.
Yeah,
Right.
yes, yeah. thank you. So we have 4 administrative approvals for tree removal. 90 Pine Street is 1 downed tree, 822 Barrett's Mill Road, 2, sorry, 2 medium-sized white pine. Concord Culinary is 1 hemlock. And 17 Shirley Street is 2 large red oak. And they will leave 2, that property owner will leave 2 10-foot snags.
Oh, great.
Are they
Alright.
all, they're
So-
dying, falling over?
The first 3 are, and the last one at 17 Shirley, don't really have any damage or issues, but the homeowner, they are within striking distance of the house, and the
Okay.
homeowner does have concerns
Mm.
about that. Very little structural issue with them, but there's concern about the potential. So they were willing to leave
To leave
those
the
10-foot
snags,
snags.
yeah.
Okay, everybody good with that?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. I think with that, we are adjourned. Good.
And I'm sorry, I'm just gonna ask, is
Oh.
Is there anybody on the call who has anybody, so I feel like Mr. Winter.
Mr. Winter?
Yes.
Oh, please. Oh, okay. Let's open that, let's not adjourn the meeting. Let's.
Yeah.
Continue it. Greg, please. You got anything for the commission?
No,
I think he might be frozen.
Yeah.
no, his
I
eyes
don't think
were-
he's
Oh,
frozen.
okay.
Hey,
Are there any public comment?
in regard to.
Stephen Vader has.
Stefan?
Yeah, Stefan, go ahead.
Yeah, just a question about,
Can I have your name and, Stefan, just quickly
Oh,
name and address for the record?
Yeah, 7 River Street, sorry, forgot.
No problem.
Um,
Thank you.
just as I live on the Sudbury River also, I'm just questioning is, as a general rule, is constructing a dock or a float or anything like that, how does that? Is that even possible if you're not the Southbridge Boathouse, I guess is long and short. of my question.
So it is possible, but it requires a permit from NRC as well as the state.
How about the Corps of
So-
Engineers? Do they require anything? No?
They don't, for just a homeowner dock, they don't.
Oh,
but Chapter
really?
91 does require it.
Oh,
So, Stefan, feel free to reach out to the office. We can guide you through that process.
Okay, all right. Luckily, I don't have muck in back of my house. I've just got sand into the water, but
There you go. Even better.
depends where you are on the river, I guess. Thank you.
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you, Stefan. And last call, Greg, do you have any comments for the commission or anything you want to talk about?
I'm just the abutter to 822 Barrett's Mill Road and have worked with Santosh, who's the owner of 822 Barrett's Mill Road, to put together some pictures for the commission showing the 2 dead trees. One's a pine tree that's about 100 foot tall that sheared off
Yeah.
in the winter storm. And I think Will may have supplied you with some other photos of that.
Yeah.
It's a real
Yeah.
dangerous condition.
Right.
And then there's another dead pine tree that's the bottom's rotted out and could fall towards the yard. There's 2 daughters of Santosh, the owner, that play in the yard, so we just want to protect them from
Sure.
trees.
No, we appreciate that.
Mhm.
Yeah, and
And those are approved, to be removed.
yeah,
Okay, thank you very much.
you're good to
You're
go. Thank you, Greg. Good
Okay.
evening. All right. And with that, we are adjourned.